Hello, Father Fred here again, and I hope you enjoy these little videos that we're showing about it's interesting, isn't it, to study the Bible in a different way than you have been taught, I'm sure. And it was different for me. Of course, anything would have been different for me because I hadn't studied the Bible before my Baptist wife started pushing me to do it. Well, we just finished chapter 16, and we're going to go to chapter 17. But before we do, we might just reflect a little bit on what chapter 16 was about. There's this guy, his name's Abram. It's going to be changed to Abraham pretty soon, but right now it's still called Abram. God's going to change his name because he's got a special plan for him. Now, Abram has a wife, and his wife's name's Sarai, and she has decided she wants some children, and she has not been able to have any. So she gets the bright idea. She has an Egyptian maid named Hagar, and she suggests to her husband, to Abram, to sleep with her and to have a child by her. Now, according to them, this child could be hers because according to their tradition, if the lady could not have a child and she had a maid, she could have the maid sleep with her husband, and when the maid had the child, she would be right there beside it, and she would put the baby on her knee, and according to that custom, that became her child. Now, she thought it was a good idea, but it doesn't turn out that as well as she thought she would like for it to have. So she told Abram that, and Abram said, okay, it's okay by me, I'll do that. So Sarai gave her husband to Hagar, and they had a child. Well, after Hagar had the child, she started thinking, God has blessed me more than she has the head lady here. So she got kind of haughty, and it made angry for Sarai. She couldn't take that. So first thing she did, just like this, don't blame me. So she told to her husband, you're going to have to choose. God is going to have to choose between you and me. That wasn't him. It should be between her and the maidservant. But she didn't. Sometimes when we become defensive, we don't know exactly what we would do. Anyway, she made it so difficult for Hagar that Hagar finally just ran off. Well, after she ran off and she was sitting out there in the desert with no water, an angel appeared to her. And she said, why don't you go back? You go back there, and I'll see that it doesn't get too difficult for you. But you go back because you can't be out here in this desert. So Hagar went back, and she's had that child now, and they named him Ishmael. Ishmael. Now Ishmael is going to have Abram as the father, but not have Sarai as the mother. And it's difficult sometimes to have children whenever one of the parents is not the parent of the child. So let's look now to chapter 17. And open your Bible. We're going to look at verse 1. Verse 1 says, when Abram was 99 years old. Now, when Ishmael was born, he was 86. So Ishmael's 13 years old now. And finally they're going to get a child. And when they do, well, Abram's going to be 100 and Ishmael's going to be 14. And I'll read that again. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said, now, when we see the word Lord, if you remember, and it's kind of hard to remember all these things, I know, but when you read the Lord, it's going to be a rider from the south, and it's going to be in Jerusalem. And it'll either be Lord or Jehovah or Yahweh. If it's one of those three, it's going to be we call it the J source because Jehovah starts with a J, and so did Yahweh when it was in German before we brought it here, and they pronounced the J's differently. So we call it the J source. Now that's the end of the J source. We have the next one is called the P source, which is the priest. And that means that the priest, when we have this, God is in charge of everything. It's not a storyteller so much. It's just going to be here are the facts. And so here we are in verse 1. He appears to Abram and says, and here's where the peace source starts, right in the middle of the sentence. I am God the Almighty. Walk in my presence and be blameless. Now that tells you when you, this is God doing the talking, God is in charge. He's going to tell you what to do. It's the peace source. Okay. Walk in my presence and be blameless. And verse 2 says, between you and me, I will establish my covenant, and I will multiply you exceedingly. Between you and me, I will make my covenant. This is the peace source. God is doing everything. It's not a little story or anything. It's God doing it. Now, we had this before with Noah. I'm going to read that for you. I'm going to go back just a little bit, back to chapter 9, and there's going to be a covenant made previously, but this one's with Noah, and it starts like this. God said to Noah and to his sons with him, see, I am now establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you. So this covenant that we're getting in chapter 17, there's already been a covenant made with Noah, and his covenant is going to be different. A covenant is an agreement with an higher person or higher authority with a lower one. So it's with God and with man. And again, it says this, I am establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you. That's the same thing that he told, going to tell Abram. He's going to have his descendants after him. And with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the tame animals, and all the wild animals that were with you, all that came out of the ark. So this is about Noah, and he's coming off the ark, and he's going to get a covenant with God and all of his descendants. Verse 11 says, if you happen to be in if you could go to chapter 9, and then we'll flip back to chapter 17. If you can get to chapter 9, we're at verse 11. And it says, I will establish my covenant with you that never again shall all creatures be destroyed by the waters of a flood. There shall not be another flood to devastate the earth. So that's his covenant. There's not going to ever be another flood like Noah had. Verse 10 says, God said, this is the sign of the covenant that I am making between you and me and between every living creature with you for all ages to come. Now that means forever, doesn't it? So the Jews have their covenant with God, and it says for all ages to come. That's interesting. Verse 13, here's his covenant. I'll set my bow or my bow in the clouds to serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the earth, the whole earth. When I bring clouds over the earth and the bow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you, and listen to this, and every living creature. He even makes a covenant with the animals. Every mortal being, so that the waters will never again become a flood to destroy every mortal being. And last of all, it says, when the bow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant. Everlasting. Remember that word. Everlasting covenant between God and every living creature, every mortal being that is on the earth. So God makes covenants with people. He made one with Noah. Now he's making one with Abram. And so we'll go back now to verse 3. Let's look at verse 2 for just a minute. Between you and me, I will establish my covenant, and I will multiply you exceedingly. Now here's what Abram does. Abram fell face down, and God said to him. Now he's listening to God face to face, I guess. And he falls down on his face he can't stand to be in the presence of God without lying down with his face on the ground. Verse 4, for my part, here is my covenant with you. You are to become the father of a multitude of nations. So he's going to have two promises to Noah. One of them, he's going to have a lot of children. Now, What about that? The only child he's got so far is Ishmael, that is from the maidservant, or there is one other person around too that we'll read about. But the first promise is he's going to make a multitude of nations, not just people, entire nations. Verse 6 says, I will make you exceedingly fertile. Now he's 100 years old, 99 right now. I will make you exceedingly fertile. I will make nations of you, kings will stem from you. That's going to be the second promise. He's going to be having land, two promises. He's going to have progeny, children, and he's going to have land. And verse 7 says, I will maintain my covenant between me and you and your descendants. Just the same thing he said with Noah, your descendants, after you, throughout the ages, and here again, as an everlasting covenant, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. That's interesting, isn't it? An everlasting covenant. Verse 8 says, I will give to you and to your descendants after you the land in which you are now residing as aliens. So they're in the land of Canaan, but they don't own it yet. They're just sojourners, just passing through. I'll give you the whole land of Canaan as a permanent possession, and I will be their God. Now, I think here we have to remember, why is it that these people can just take this land? We have to go back to Noah again. Back to, he had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, you remember when Noah got off that ark, he decided he's going to plant some vines, some vineyards, get some grapes, and make some wine, and he gets soused. Well, he passes out. So then his one son, Ham, comes by and sees him and covers him up, or goes and tells his brothers, and his brothers cover him up. Then Noah comes out of it, and he is angry because what some scholars say is Ham didn't just look at him while he was lying there. He might have done something sexual, but anyhow, God is upset, or Noah is upset, and Noah jumps on somebody that's not even there. He puts the blame on Canaan, and Canaan was not there, but Canaan was the son of Ham, and he says Canaan will serve Shem. So Canaan becomes the land that Canaan comes in and conquers the land, or has the land anyway, when it comes time for the Israelites to come, for Abram to come anyway. Now, this land that's going to be taken, it's going to be taken by a descendant of Shem. It said back there in Noah that Ham would serve Shem and Canaan would serve Shem's descendants. And one of the descendants of Shem is Abraham. So Abraham's going to get this land now. So now we got that tied together. It says, I will give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now residing as aliens, the whole land of Canaan, because he put a curse on Canaan back there, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God. Verse 9 says, God said to Abraham, for your part, you and your descendants after you must keep my covenant throughout the ages. Well, we know they don't. They get it and they lose it, and they get it and they lose it. Verse 10 says, this is the covenant between me and you and your descendants after you, that you must keep every male among you, he shall be circumcised. So this is also part of the covenant. To be in the family of God, all males had to be circumcised. Circumcise the flesh of your foreskin. This is verse 11. That will be the sign of the covenant between you and me. That means that you're going to belong to me. That is a family salvation. We look at now, we're so individualistic right now. We've got to accept Jesus as our Lord, as our one person. This wasn't true with the Israelites. Abraham, when he had children, he had to circumcise them as babies, and they didn't know anything that was going on. They didn't have to wait till they became a certain age. They were circumcised when they were 8 days old. Now, when these Jews became Christian, they carried the same practice, only instead of circumcision, they were baptized. So in the church, we baptize babies, and they become part of the family of God. Now, later on, the Jew, when he's about 12 or 13, the boys have what they call a bar mitzvah, or if you're a girl, a bat mitzvah. We don't hear much about bat mitzvahs, but that means they make their own decision. And it's the same thing in the Catholic Church, only we call it confirmation. So they come into the family as babies, or if they're just converts, when they come in, Daddy comes in, he will never come in by himself. He will bring, the whole family will be baptized. Just like in Acts of the Apostles, chapter 16, I think it's verse 31, the jailer asked the prisoners, what must I do to be saved? And they said, you must believe in the Lord Jesus, and you and your family will be saved. And right before that, in verse 15, there's a girl named Lydia, has purple goods, it says, and says she believes, and she and her whole family are baptized. They didn't come in just by themselves. When a Jew decided to come into another faith, he brought the whole family. There was a family affair. Just like when Abraham is going to get circumcised, he is going to get circumcised, and so will all of the members of the family that are male. It makes no difference what age, and it makes no difference whether they want to. They get circumcised. Let's look now at verse 12. Throughout the ages, every male among you, when he is 8 days old, shall be circumcised, including house-born slaves. So if you're a slave and you're a male, you're going to get circumcised. And those acquired with money. So if you buy somebody, sounds like a slave, doesn't it? Acquired with money from any foreigner who is not of your descendants, yes, both the household slaves and those acquired with money must be circumcised. Thus my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. We keep hearing that word, everlasting covenant. They are, I guess you would say, blood connections with circumcision. It says, thus my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Verse 14 says, if a male is uncircumcised, that is, if the flesh of his foreskin has not been cut away, such a one will be cut off from the people. He has broken my covenant. So if you have a child and you don't have that child circumcised, he will not be part of God's family. Verse 15, God further said to Abraham, as for Sarai and your wife, do not call her Sarai. Her name now is Sarah. In this chapter, he gets his name changed from Abram to Abraham and from Sarai to Sarah. Abraham means the father of many nations, and Sarai is the wife of that, or the mother of many nations. Verse 16, I will bless her and give her a son by her. Her also will I bless. She will give rise to nations, and rulers of people will issue from her. She's 90, he's 100, and they're going to have a child. This says, verse 17, Abraham fell face down and laughed. You don't laugh at God. But he couldn't control himself. As he said to himself, can a child be born to a man is 100 years old? So that means Ishmael is 14 because Abram was 86 when he was born. when Ishmael was born. Can a child be born to a man who's 100 years old? Can Sarah give birth at 90? So Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael could live in your favor. He thinks they're talking about Ishmael. And God replied, even so, your wife Sarah is to bear you a son, and you shall call him Isaac. It is with him that I will maintain my covenant as an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. So they're going to name him Isaac, and Isaac means the one that laughs. He gets that name because his daddy laughs, and his mama's going to laugh. Okay, let's look at verse 20 now. Now, as for Ishmael, I will heed you. I will hereby bless him. Now, that's his son. You remember that. I will make him fertile and will multiply him exceedingly. He will become the father of 12 chieftains, and I will make him a great nation. So he's going to have his own side. He's going to have 12 chieftains. He's going to like 12 tribes. 12 is a number that means it belongs to God, like the 12 apostles and the 12 tribes, and he's going to have 12 chieftains. But his chieftains are not going to be in the royal family. So verse 21 says, but my covenant I will maintain with Isaac. So Isaac, the real son, is the one that's going to be, his descendants are the ones that are going to be in that royal family, whom Sarah shall bear to you by this time next year. She's going to have that child. And only going to know the name of it. Verse 22, when he had finished speaking with Abraham, God departed from him. Verse 23, then Abraham took his son Ishmael and all his slaves, whether born in the house or acquired with his money, every male among the members of Abraham's household, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins on that same day, as God had told him to do. Verse 24, Abraham was 99 years old when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised. 99. He's going to be 100 when Isaac is born. Verse 25, and his son Ishmael was 13 years old when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised. And the last verse, thus on that same day, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised. So he's 99. Next year he's going to have he's going to have a real son with his wife, Sarah. And they're going to name him Isaac. And he's going to be 100, not Isaac, but Abraham's going to be 100 and Sarah's going to be 90. Now, next week, we're going to have chapter 18. That's the end of 17. And Sarah is going to laugh whenever she's told that she's going to be the mother of a child. And that's a no-no. That's not a good thing. So don't miss next week. We're going to be talking about Sarah and Abraham. They're going to have their own child named Isaac. Feel free to share this, and God bless you. Thanks for watching.